It's a good ball played in for Tony Morley. Oh, he missed it! It is! Peter Ward! Villa in the lead!
Hello, good evening, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to the Villa Forever podcast. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Instagram. I am your host, Chad Williams. Please subscribe. Do what you contact Threads 2K. Follow me on all socials. You can give me a follow on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon Music. Smash the likes on this video and spread awareness of Duchenne muscular dystrophy. This evening, I'm joined by my special guest, Jonathon Greenwood, who is a Newcastle fan and contributor on the True Faith Newcastle United podcast. This is the pre-match talk show. Newcastle United versus Aston Villa in the Premier League at St James's Park. Sunday afternoon football, 2 p.m. kickoff. Aston Villa go into this game with a very thin squad with injuries. And we haven't got a great record at St James's Park. Also, it's a massive blow without Kamara for the next few weeks. A very busy fixture schedule ahead. Great to have the show, Jonathan. How are you?
I'm very well, Chad. Thanks for inviting me on. It's very, very busy as a Newcastle United fan. Games every 3 days until I think the March international break if we don't get into the top 8 of the Champions League. So it's pretty relentless at the minute.
Oh, the bit after last night, he was very happy with the results.
Yeah,
Was it 3-0?
3-0 against PSV last night. Yeah, I was there at St James's. It was a difficult test on paper because PSV are top of the Dutch league by about 12-15 points. So they're running away with the title in their own country. But it was probably the most comfortable performance Newcastle have had for a little while. It was very, very comfortable, surprisingly, and we didn't really have to get out of second gear, and all our front three managed to get on the score sheet. So it was a very, very good evening's work for Newcastle. We sit in the top 8 of the Champions League now, which obviously last year...
It's quite a big statement, I think.
It is, isn't it? Because obviously Villa got to the top 8 last year, and that was, I think, a very... When people look back, maybe a bit of a statement when you look back last year, because there's obviously so many good teams in the Champions League. So if Newcastle have got to go to PSG next week and win to guarantee top 8, a draw might be good enough, but probably unlikely. So going to be difficult, but yeah, the performance.
And Harvey Barnes, Anthony Gordon, they've been very effective. It's really stand-up performers, I think.
Yeah, Harvey Barnes has been absolutely outstanding in particular. Anthony Gordon's been brilliant in the Champions League. The Premier League not so much, but he's still got talent. He's still got a lot of talent, and he's ready to switch it on when he needs to. Obviously, he got that goal against Villa at St James's last year on Boxing Day, but Harvey Barnes has been outstanding. He's in terrific form. He's probably the best natural goal scorer at the club, and I think he's the club's top goal scorer with 12 goals this season. So, brilliant player, and he's one of the first names on the team sheet at the minute is Harvey Barnes.
I'm hoping Aston Villa, the end of the season, they'll win the Champions League again. That's the main target for Aston Villa. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like, I know how you guys feel. Champions League nights just feel extra special.
They certainly are. Obviously, I watched a little bit of Aston Villa in the Champions League last year, and I thought they were very unfortunate to get through against PSG, particularly that second leg at Villa Park. It was, I thought it was almost a matter of when Villa would score the next goal rather than if, but it just never happened. You got very, very close, but those occasions are spectacular. To have Champions League football at your own club, obviously, I feel like Newcastle and Aston Villa are similar in the sense of the journey. We're both being in the
Yeah.
Championship and played each other in the Championship, and
And
you know
even with
both.
Eddie Howe, and Emery, the similarities, I think, is how
Oh,
much they both
yeah.
transformed the football clubs.
Oh, 100%. I think when you look at, obviously, I was just talking about similarities between Newcastle and Aston Villa. You look at pretty much since Unai Emery's walked through the door at Villa Park. Obviously, Eddie Howe had that half a season extra, but he basically kept Newcastle up with that half a season. But since Unai Emery's come in and Eddie Howe's come in, both clubs have probably been on the same trajectory, just been upwards all the way, and
Yeah.
it's been really really good. And
Because at
two
one point,
outstanding
Unai
managers.
Emery, when he was linked with going to Newcastle, before he took the Aston Villa job.
It was between him and Eddie Howe for the job, and they did offer the job to Unai Emery before when he was at Villarreal, but he turned the job down. Just I think it was mainly because of Newcastle's situation. It was a proper rebuild, and I think with Villa it was subtly different because yes, Steven Gerrard didn't do a great job at Aston Villa, but
Yeah.
there was still quality in that squad. You still obviously had Emi Martinez, who was he still going to be, who's still at Villa now, but there was a nucleus of a really good squad. It just needed tinkering, and
Yeah.
it just needed a bit of managing, a proper manager. Because let's be honest, Unai Emery compared to Steven Gerrard,
Yeah.
it's miles apart. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it's been a fun. Both managers have done incredible jobs at this moment in time.
So we're talking about Sunday. So what do you expect for Sunday afternoon?
Sunday's going to be very, very interesting. Obviously, as we record, it's just before Villa play that Europa League match, which I think's a. If I look at all the Europa League games you could have had from a
Yeah.
biased Newcastle perspective, away in Turkey was probably up higher on the list just because of the travel element. Obviously, talking about 4 hour
It could be
flights,
a big factor.
huge factor, huge factor. 4 hour flight there, 4 hour flight back, and then you're kind of getting back into Birmingham in the early hours of the morning. It's not ideal, and then you've got to travel up to Newcastle on the Saturday. It doesn't really give you much time to prepare, but I suppose you have to get used to that as a big club and being in European competition. But it's going to be a very, very difficult game. I know Aston Villa's form at St James's Park isn't very good at all. I think the last win was
Because I always look
2005.
forward to St. James's Park. But it's not that one always really not one when you beat us 5-1.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I remember that first game of the season because obviously both teams had done some good business. I think obviously you bought
Yep.
Moussa Diaby, who Newcastle were heavily linked with, but we had brought Sandro Tonali, and it was really really interesting to see how that game was going to go. And obviously Newcastle won comfortably on the day, but
Yep.
you could tell that there wasn't much in it between the two teams. Like even at Villa
Yep.
Park, I went to that away game and Newcastle won by 3 goals to 1, but it was a closer game on paper. But yeah, I think at this moment in time, there's not much in it between the
Yep.
two sides. I think
It's a hard
Villa,
place to go to.
yeah,
Just with the Newcastle fans. They're very passionate.
yeah,
And the crowd are on top of you.
oh, it's a very passionate. I think that very similar to Villa. But two clubs that you know who just are so passionate and want their team to do so well. And yeah, it's a bit of a crazy a crazy supporter base at the best of times, but we're just so passionate. We just want our team to do so well, and the takeover was massive for that in terms of having that ambition, and it's obviously paid off with 2 Champions League runs, and obviously the Carabao Cup last year, which was a massive, massive hurdle to win the
Yeah.
first trophy in 70 years, was huge for the club.
I was actually happy that Newcastle won it. It might have changed the other teams. And hopefully Aston Villa can join amongst the Newcastle. You saw that conveyor belt. The teams that haven't won a trophy for a long time.
100%. When you look at last year, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, and Tottenham all won a trophy for the first time in God knows how long. And look, Villa have been there or thereabouts, haven't they? Obviously got to the semi-finals of the FA Cup, the semi-finals of the Conference League. I think they'll go far in the Europa League. I think the bookies have made Villa favourites. I think the manager's a winner. Emery's a winner.
Yeah.
I think it's just the players. I think you've got to have that belief as players that can we get over the line, because
Yeah.
it's no point of being an early team because yes, you get the good moments, but it ultimately ends in disappointment. And Newcastle are no strangers to that. But if Villa can win that Europa League or win the FA Cup, which obviously I hope they don't win the
Okay.
FA Cup because obviously Villa play Newcastle
Yeah.
in a couple of weeks, but that's got to
I
be
think we might
an
win a
objective.
trophy. I don't know which one it might be the FA Cup, the Europa League, but I'd like us to win a trophy.
Yeah, I actually made a bet with a Villa fan. I've got a friend who's a big Villa fan, lives in the
Yeah.
northeast, and I made a bet with his dad, who lives a couple of miles away from Villa Park. I don't know that the area is great, but it's not too
Okay.
far from Villa Park. And he said to me in 2000 and what was it 2019, would Villa win a trophy in 5 years' time? And I said no, just because of how good Man
Yeah, yeah.
City are, how good Liverpool and Chelsea and whoever. Um, but I think if he asked me to make that bet again now in 5 years' time, I wouldn't make that bet. I do think Villa will win a trophy in the next 5 years, just if they can keep a hold of Emery. If as long as Emery's happy
That's
at
the
Villa,
big thing.
that's the massive thing.
So also, I'm not going into this guy. Aston Villa got a very depleted squad. And without the likes of McGinn and Kamara, they're crucial to where we play. That's going to be a big loss at the weekend.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one from a Villa perspective, I suppose. Um, the midfield is obviously pivotal to how Emery likes to play.
The strongest
Um,
area in the midfield as well.
of course, I do rate likes of Yuri Tielemans and Onana, and obviously Kamara has been a big signing for Aston Villa. But the fact that they're not playing obviously gives me a little bit more hope.
Okay.
But obviously, still a difficult team. Obviously, the main man is Morgan
Okay.
Rogers, and rightly so. He's had an absolutely tremendous season,
Oh,
arguably
outstanding.
arguably player of the season. If you were to make your votes right now, he'd be certainly right in the conversation for that. But look, I still feel that it's a winnable game for Newcastle just because of the fact that
Yeah.
you are playing Europa League on Thursday night and your record at St James is absolutely terrible for
Also,
us.
with the Newcastle midfield, you've got a lot stronger midfield. Because our midfield's very weak. Even without Onana, Kamara, then again, like, we're a different team.
Oh,
Then you've got
100%.
Gamarayas and Tanane.
Yeah, Tonali, Jolinton, Bruno Guimaraes. It's a fantastic three to have when they're not playing every 3 days. It certainly helps.
Yeah.
If they were playing only one game a week, we saw last season that it made a massive difference. And we were winning a lot of midfield battles. The reason why we won the Carabao Cup,
Okay.
yes, Alexander Isak was a massive impact because of how good he was, but that midfield three won us the cup final. It battered Liverpool's midfield, and Liverpool,
Yeah.
obviously as Premier League champions, it's not a bad midfield that they have, but
Yeah.
it just works really, really well.
Well, if the
Tonali,
midfield, that's when the battle's going to be won. That's when the main battle, I think, is going to be.
I agree. I agree. I think midfield is a huge battle. I think whoever wins the midfield battle probably wins the game. But look, I think Newcastle have got to stop Morgan Rogers. If Newcastle stop Morgan Rogers, it
Yeah.
gives them a really good chance. But if they allow him too much time on the ball, we've seen
He
that he's
glides
got
all over the pitch, Rogers.
yeah,
And
excellent player.
that's when he's finishing. Great finishes.
Well, I look at the game against Manchester United at Villa Park and just before Christmas, and
Okay.
that obviously the first goal was an absolute wonder
Mhm.
strike. The second one was a great finish
I
as
mean,
well.
Morgan Rogers, what he usually does is, he's not the knuckle ball.
Yeah,
You know for doing.
yeah, he's an excellent player. He's obviously got an eye for goal. Um, Hard to keep him quiet because he is in such good form. But that's the task for Eddie Howe and mainly the defence. It'd be interesting to see how we approach it on Sunday. But yeah, it is going to be a difficult game. I, I'll be interested to see. Obviously, I've seen his starting 11 this evening, and obviously he's
Okay.
kept a couple of players on the bench, like Esri Condon on the bench, Pau Torres on the bench, Onana's on the bench. I know he was a bit 50-50.
Maybe rotation tonight, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I'm surprised he's gone as strong as he has, to be really honest. In this Europa League game, I think I think it could have been. It wouldn't have surprised me if he played a few more youngsters, but obviously he's gone as
Not
strong as he
George
can for the
Hemmings.
game. Yeah, good player as well. He came on, didn't he, against Everton on Sunday? So
Yeah.
it's so many good options for Aston Villa, but obviously the manager's been a bit upset recently with
Okay.
not being backed, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's getting really frustrated about that. Because I heard in his interview, so he didn't think were top 5 contenders. No, I just think in the moment, he was just frustrated and annoyed, I think.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because I do have a level of sympathy for Unai Emery because he's obviously done such a fantastic job, and then he sees likes of Manchester City and Chelsea being able to spend so easily, and even Newcastle are in that similar situation to Aston Villa. We can't really buy. I
Okay.
know obviously we sold Isak in last year for good money, but we can't really spend it until the summer. And
Yeah.
you want to be able to improve transfer window to
Because with
transfer
us,
window.
it comes down to the revenue with us at the moment.
Yeah, and obviously with Villa and Newcastle, it's very similar in terms of the amount of revenue they bring in. There's not really much in it, but when you compare that to, say, a Manchester City, a Manchester
Yeah.
United, a Liverpool, a Chelsea, and Arsenal, it's incomparable.
Because even Spurs,
Spurs are just
which surprises me.
Spurs are just. I don't worry about Spurs anymore. I don't. I think they're just a bit of a.
I don't fear them anymore.
No, they're just a bit. Like I say, they're hanging on by a thread, being a top six club, but they don't really act like a top six club at
Okay.
all. And I
The-
never fear playing Spurs, and that's just like obviously Villa beat Spurs in the FA Cup, and if that was the other way round and Spurs beat Villa, and then we ended up playing Spurs in the next round, I would have been like, oh well, it's only Spurs. So, um, yeah, they don't frighten me like they used to back in the day under Pochettino.
okay.
But it's from a Villa perspective, it is frustrating.
We're getting punished, like to shame.
Yeah, and I think obviously both teams are. To be fair, like I say, we can't spend this freely, and we've got the richest owners in the world.
Yeah.
Like, so that just tells you everything, really.
Just go in, with like Emery, he's restricted to the amount of money he can spend. He's got the FFP rules and, PSR.
It's well, it's a way of keeping the so-called big clubs at the top.
Protects them.
Yeah, and but you look at Chelsea, for example, spending over £1 billion and not really getting anywhere. Manchester United spending similar money, and you look, they're very much hit and miss, even at the best of times. Obviously, they got a good win last week, but yeah, look, I think Villa and Newcastle's almost the way you want to do it. You almost want to be a club that's, a bit of a sleeping giant in some
Yeah, yeah.
respect, and kind of work their way up the right way. Buying a couple of players, mixing it with the players that you've got, and seeing the benefits. Both teams have done
Well,
that to
Jonathan,
an
on the
extent.
screen, forget the team on that you sent me. So this is your predicted lineup of face Aston Villa. So, Jonathan, so how will Newcastle set up?
Yeah, I've put that as the starting 11. Obviously, Bruno Guimaraes got a slight knock. He had to come off against PSV, so
Yeah.
he is a doubt. And I do think it'll be the former Villa player Jacob Ramsey that would take his position if Bruno doesn't start on the weekend. But the only other one that's possibly might not happen is Lewis Miley playing at right back. He may play in midfield for Bruno.
Yeah.
He came on. For Bruno on Wednesday night, but I'll be very surprised if Kieran Trippier plays, considering it'd be 3 games in a week and he has just come back from injury. So that would surprise me. But regardless, it is still a strong outfit. I think Voltemada comes in for Wissa.
I think that Montemada, that could be a key battle. It looks
Yeah,
a power and concept.
yeah, 100%. I like Voltemada. He's tailed off a little bit, but it's kind of expected. He's obviously in a new league, the German league to the Premier League. It's a
Yeah.
massive difference if you take away Bayern Munich. So he scored 7 goals in the Premier League. I would like him to get over 10, and I think that would be a good return, considering the circumstances. But it will be a big battle. I really do rate Konza. I think he's an outstanding centre half. I think he's very
He's going to be
underrated.
in the team sheet, the England squad.
Oh,
The
100%.
World
Yeah,
Cup consistent.
yeah. As long as he doesn't get injured between now and then, he'll be on the plane. And like you say, you look at him, you look at Gay, and you look at John Stones. They're probably the 3 centre halves. But obviously, John Stones doesn't play, but he has the experience of playing for England. So at the minute it's probably Stones and Gay, and I think he probably finds himself a little bit unfortunate. But it'll be a good tussle between Voltemada and Conte on the weekend. But
Baltimore, it's like area there. I know with
yeah,
Baltimore, it looks taking a gamble.
yeah, I think Voltemada, he's very good with his feet. Actually, he's very good at holding the ball up, and you know, people kind of forget that, but aerially is where he's most prominent, and I think that will be massive at the weekend because Gordon and Barnes will try and get crosses in. If Trippier does play right back, we know how good Trippier is at a dead ball as well. So, you know, he has scored a couple of goals with his head as well. I can remember the goal against Arsenal, and he scored against Spurs in the League Cup as well. So, yeah, he's got that aerial threat which Villa are going to have to be careful with. But for me, the player in form at the minute is our left. Well, is our left back and right winger. Obviously, Lewis Hall and Harvey Barnes. Lewis Hall's been absolutely outstanding since he's come back from injury, and Harvey Barnes can't stop scoring. And I think he's got a good record against Aston Villa. So from a Newcastle perspective, I hope that continues.
With Joe Linton, I know he's work right, and he's pressing. That could cause us a few problems, maybe.
Joe Linton's one of those players you love to have him on your team, but from an opposition point of view, you probably think he's just so frustrating, so annoying. Because he gets to the line of a yellow card, and sometimes that line towards a red card, but he just stops himself. But he is very effective in how Eddie Howe likes to play. He's been transformed since Eddie Howe came in. You know, obviously he's not the £40 million striker that we all thought he would be.
He's a real character.
Yeah, definitely. He's the £40 million midfielder that we've transformed him into, I suppose.
The Brazilians, you can't go wrong with Brazilian players.
Yeah, well, we've got two very good ones in Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton, both been outstanding. Like I say, I think Newcastle and Eddie Howe in particular will give Bruno every chance to be fit on Sunday. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, you cannot go wrong. We've had some good Brazilian players over the years. But it's hopefully we can get another one through the door in the summer transfer window if there's any good Brazilian players knocking about, I suppose.
To go to the next talking point, we're going to talk about Emery. So, could the future of Emery be uncertain with the financial restrictions?
It's a good question. The problem is Unai Emery could walk into Manchester United tomorrow, but that is a massive rebuilding job, and Manchester United are a mess. They are a mess. They've obviously got a good result last week, but they're a mess off the pitch. On the pitch, they are a little bit of a mess.
Just on the hierarchy. Just a mess up, United.
Oh, 100%. That's the most important thing. And that's why he's got such a good relationship at Villa with terms of he's in charge. Unai Emery is in charge. He's allowed to, you know, everything goes through him. Everything goes through him, and it's almost a case of that's what you want as the manager. You always want free reign. Eddie Howe doesn't get that as much, but he's getting more and more. If you like, he's allowed to bring the players he wants to bring in. But going back to your question, Unai Emery, unless a real big club, and I mean a proper big club,
like a Real Madrid, maybe.
Exactly, like a Real Madrid, a Barcelona. Unfortunately, I kind of have to put Manchester United in that category just from experience. But I think it would have to take a hell of a lot of persuasion to see Unai Emery go to Manchester United. I think maybe a Real Madrid, a Barcelona, someone like that, if they were to come knocking, I think that's where you go. Do you know what?
And Jonathon as well. I don't think that he went to Man United. He would not get the control. He likes to have control. He has the keys to the castle at Aston Villa.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you. I think that's what I meant. I think it would take a lot of persuasion from Manchester United to say, look, yes, you will get that control. You're our man. We'll give you the keys to the house. Your analogy there. And then he might go, well, actually go and we'll go with it then, because he will have that free reign to spend money. If they go back on his word, then that's a different conversation altogether. And Villa fans are going, you should have stayed where you had everything. But he can, at this moment in time, a bit like Eddie Howe at Newcastle, he can take us to here, but can he take us to there with the financial restraints? Very difficult. Very difficult.
And also, like every season, keeping consistent, qualifying for Europe. That's going to help. If we qualify for Champions League, that'd be crucial as well.
Oh, massively. Well, I was just saying to my dad earlier today that obviously that final game of last season when Newcastle just pipped Villa to the Champions League last season. You know that error from the referee at Old Trafford
Yeah.
last year was a massive, and you could see in Emery's face last
Oh
year,
yeah.
like how much of an impact that did. Because if he could have done back-to-back Champions League with Aston Villa with
Yeah.
the revenue that you get from the Champions League,
Okay.
the drop in revenue from the Champions League to the Europa League is huge, and
Oh, big
was
difference.
a huge difference. And if you look at Newcastle, managed to get that Champions League revenue, it's helped us get a few players in through the door that we might not have been able to get if we were in the Europa League.
But you will totally understand. Because Emery's got the right to be frustrated. Like he's trying to like build a team. Just not get to that next level, but be it can't.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's what you have to wait and see. Like, I'll be very surprised if Aston Villa don't finish in the Champions League places. They do have that safety cushion, and I think it looks like England are going to get 5 teams again in the Champions League. So
We've certainly got best players.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I can't see Aston Villa dropping from third at the minute to sixth between now and the end of the
I think
season.
we'll keep consistent.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine. I think you'll finish in the top 5. I do think you'll peter out in terms of the title race, and Villa are in a title race right now because Manchester City are definitely in a title race, and you both have the same points. But
realistically, every season, the target for Aston Villa in Champions League doesn't Aston Villa should be the target every season.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's what who was it that did an interview? I think it was Anthony Gordon did an interview, and he said that's exactly what Newcastle's target is every year, is to get into the Champions League. So it's fantastic to hear both clubs going, that's our ambition, considering a few years earlier it was probably just to stay in the division. So it's nice to hear that, because both clubs are really, I suppose, enjoying the ride of the Champions League, because it is fantastic. Going to all these different European clubs, it's amazing.
It's going towards the end of the podcast. So I'll ask one more question. So what do you make of Wissa and Walter for the recent goal scoring form?
Yeah, it's an interesting one at the minute because Wissa obviously was injured until December, so we haven't really seen a lot of Wissa. I do like Wissa. I think he probably suits Newcastle more than Voltemade, but Voltemade does have an eye for goal. I think you need a season in the Premier League if you have Nick Voltemade just to kind of almost get used to the environment of how quick it is and what you have to do to really reap the rewards of scoring goals. And like Alexander Isak, took him a little bit of a while to kind of get into the swing of things, but once he did, he was scoring goals for fun.
Guys, with Walter Wissa, they're both different strikers. Does not offer something different.
And I think that works really well. I think that works really, really well for Newcastle. I think, little and large, Wissa, he's quicker than Voltemade, links up with the ball very well. But if you want a Voltemade to kind of links up with the wingers pretty well, but so does Voltemade. He is a different type of striker. He's Voltemade is similar to the Harry Kane type of striker. Not as good as Harry Kane, I must add that.
Yeah.
But similar in terms of how they like to play. But both options are good. But at the minute, Wissa seems to be getting the nod more than Voltemade. But
do you think they can play together?
They played together once in the FA Cup against Bournemouth, and it was okay. It wasn't too bad. And I don't think it should ever be ruled out. I think they can play together. But anyhow, it's very much a 4-3-3 man, and I'll be very surprised if he ever started a game.
It's a little bit like when we had Watkins and John Duran. It didn't work.
Yeah, you have to start one or the other, don't you? And Watkins and Duran are very similar. Obviously, I know Duran's going to be facing Villa in about 20 minutes' time, so that'll be interesting to see what happens with that one. But if you can manage it well, and I'm sure Eddie Howe can, if he can manage both strikers well in terms of expectation, and then I think it can rub off.
They need to get the right service.
100%, and that's why you look at Newcastle's wingers; they're very pacey and can all cross a ball pretty well, with the likes of Gordon, Barnes, Murphy, and Alanga. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah. Also, I'm really interested. With Leon Bailey as well. He's returned back to Aston Villa. But I do think it makes sense, that transfer, It's a good idea.
I was surprised that Marlon left to go to Roma, but Bailey, he's got quality. But is he going to be in the right sort of frame mind coming back after obviously being shifted?
And I think he's got a point to prove.
Yeah, he certainly does. But does Emery fancy him? I suppose that's probably the big question. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Because I think with Leon Bailey, he's got that potential. He's just got to show that consistency. I think it was in 2 seasons ago, in the 23-24 season. That was when he was at his best.
Yeah, I remember when obviously, as I mentioned before, I think he got the assist for Watkins' goal at Villa Park when Villa played Newcastle, and he is a threat. He is a threat for sure. But again, it's maybe it's come at a good time that Newcastle don't play Villa straight away, so he can't get settled in straight away. But I'd be very surprised if he really kicks on because, like I say, it's probably a bit deflating for him considering he's kind of been shipped from one club to another. Probably Villa probably could do with selling him in the summer and letting him.
Well, I heard that apparently by Leverkusen, they're going to get him with a permanent, I think.
That's a good move for him. I mean, they're a good club by Leverkusen. We play them in the Champions League, and they're a good, solid outfit.
And he's got to keep it injury free.
Yeah, that's just it's like any player these days. If you keep them injury free, they'll fly. But I think Newcastle and Aston Villa have seen players get niggles, and it's just been hard to watch because they can't get that consistency.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. Just concerned with, and before you go, can you give me a score prediction?
It'll be a very close game. I don't think it'll be the 5-1s and the 3-0s of the last couple of years. I think it'll be close, but I'm going to say Newcastle will nick it 2-1. But a very, very close game. Wouldn't surprise me if it'll be a draw. But I'm going to go 2-1 home win.
I'm going to go 1-1 draw. I don't think it'll be a great game, but I think we might maybe nick a point.
Well, it will be a close game. I think, like I say, a draw wouldn't surprise me. Like I say, both clubs are very evenly matched at the minute. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. But it'll definitely be goals. I'll be shocked if it's 0-0.
Well, thank you, Jonathan, for your time.
Well, it's no problem at all. And I'll say best of luck after Sunday.
Yeah, that's a good one for Sunday. Good up to the rest of the season.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this podcast, please remember to make sure to subscribe. Make sure to smash the likes as well on this video. And share the word on this podcast. Share it on your socials. And if you're listening via audio, make sure to leave us a good review. That always helps. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your time.
Cheers, Chad. Thank you.
I'm going to wrap up this episode with Villa forever as always, and up the Villa.